Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Today, I would like to present our paper with the title Two-Handed Design, Development of Food Personality Framework Using Mixed Method Need Finding. Here is my co-authors, and I'm Summer Jung, the first author. Let's start by parsing this lengthy title. The two-handed design and mixed method part highlight the fact that the paper uses both qualitative and quantitative data and analysis. The food personality framework refers to the framework that we're building, and you can think of it as food Myers-Briggs or food Big Five. We propose that different individuals portray different types of eating behaviors motivated by various factors. You can think of your friends who eat the same thing all the time, or a foodie friend that always look for new restaurants. And we positioned ourselves as design researchers. Need finding is the art and science of understanding user needs for new products and services. Traditionally, it's been mostly done qualitatively, but by this research, we present a novel approach to need finding from multimodal data. So why is food personality a topic worthy of discussion? The importance of users in design literature has been well documented. Among many industries, food industry can especially benefit from such user-driven design because the failure rate of new products is so high. My previous research on food startups also revealed that startups often lack the ability and resources to understand consumers. Therefore, we felt the need to develop heuristics that food companies use to categorize users and understand them. There's prior work done in developing the food choice questionnaire, but the questionnaire does not categorize eaters and therefore lack application in the real food industry. If we can identify eater groups based on their dominant motivators, companies can understand each consumer segment to make more informed decisions about their new products. Also, in an individual level, knowing each other's food personalities may help identify potential barriers or discrepancies in a relationship. Now, I would like to walk you through our methodology. We first decided to build a food personality framework from ground up using rounded theory. We used 14 interviews to first form our preliminary theory. We, in fact, now interviewed over 40 participants, but we only had analyzed 14 by the time we submitted the paper. It was a diverse group of male, female, and different ethnicities. We interviewed them about their past, current, and ideal eating behaviors. From the data, we informed line-by-line coding, which summarizes each line of the interview into micro-level codes. Then we grouped the micro-level codes to bigger code groups, which eventually formed big influencers. For instance, getting takeout food and a few other micro-level codes would form this code group called convenient eating or cooking. Then the code group, along with a few other code groups, would form this influencer, convenience. So what did we find? We identified 10 voluntary motivators that positively affected selection of certain foods. For instance, our participants ate to foster their sense of belonging in a community or ate because they were familiar with certain foods. In contrast, we identified 3 involuntary motivators that negatively affected food choices, such as trying to be frugal, having physical restrictions such as allergies, and not having access to the right infrastructure. Lastly, we also identified 5 desires around food consumption, such as having a sense of control or being able to improvise during cooking. Then we used the motivators identified to inform our quantitative analysis. In a popular recipe website called food.com, each recipe could be described with a few tags or descriptors, such as 15 minutes or less, which users would use to refine their recipe search. Tags are shared by several recipes, and we assumed that users can be categorized by the distribution of these tags across all the recipes that they have tried. Our quantitative data consisted of over 6,000 recipe tags. We categorized each recipe tags into the influencers that we identified in the qualitative analysis. For instance, 15 minutes or less would be categorized as a convenience-related tag. Then, using k-means plus plus clustering, we clustered users of the recipe website based on the recipe tags that they frequently interacted with. And we found 3 meaningful user groups that were also validated by the qualitative data. The minimalists interacted with a lot of tags related to convenience, experience level, or frugality. So they just wanted something quick and cheap. In contrast, we also found a group that was exactly opposite. Conscious eaters valued morality and had a lot of interest in certain diets, such as keto and health. Lastly, the third group, which we call social butterflies, valued community, occasion, so like parties and mood. Within our qualitative data, we found at least one user that corresponds to each group. Lastly, we developed Food Mocograph, which is an interactive tool that helps us to understand the co-occurrence of each recipe tags. The closer the nodes, the more likely for them to co-occur. For instance, among conscious eaters, the health-related tags and diet-related tags are closely related together. So they are very likely to co-occur. In contrast to other tags like social media and community-related ones. With that, I would like to move on to our conclusion. Through our research, we present a successful dynamic interplay between qualitative and quantitative data. The qualitative data directly informed the analysis of the quantitative data, and the result of the qualitative analysis was later validated by the quantitative data. A similar approach can be applied to other human-food interaction data and non-food contexts as well. As I wrap up, I would like to ask you what your food personality is. What are your biggest motivators? And how does that differ from your friends or family? Does that affect your relationship with them at all? This is just our food for thought. Thank you so much. And here's my email. Thank you.